Hey guys, Billy Davidson, Davidson Pressure Wash Painting here in Hammond, Louisiana. Got a little something new I want to do for you all. I am going to be answering some frequently asked questions that I get personally, whether it's through text messages, the little comment box below, or on Facebook. So I got some printed out here. I'm going to probably do about 3 or 4 today, and then we're gonna probably do this about once or twice a week. So if you got any questions, something that I haven't answered before, or something that's just on your mind that you really need an expert answer to, drop it in the comment box below, or you can text me and I'll make a video for you personally. Here we go with number 1 is Mr. Davidson at Davidson Pressure Washer Painting. What type of pressure hose do you buy and where to get it? So we got 2 questions there in that one question. What type of pressure hose do we buy? Well, actually there's 2 types of pressure hoses in the power washing business. Well, there's a little more, but the 2 types that you're going to be really worried about is called a radio hose 1 or radio hose 2. And sometimes that's referred to R1 or R2. R1 hose is pretty simple, is rated up to 3,000 PSI, and R2 is rated for 4,000 PSI. So depending on what machine you got, the R1 or R2 would be for your specific application. Myself, this is not to, to say that you can do this on your machine. I have a 3,500 PSI, 8 gallon per minute, and I have used R1 on it, and it was just fine. So R1's rated for 3,000 PSI, but it does have that little bit of give in it. You know, that being said, it could blow on you if you're pushing too much more than 3,500 PSI. The reason why I like to use the R1, for a simple to easy to roll up, it's a lighter weight, and also it's a little less cost involved. And they do last us fine. Although I don't run my pressure washer usually at 100% power, it has handled it. Now that being said, if you up around that 4,000 PSI, or you have one of these 4 gallon per minute machines, you definitely want to go with the R2. Per foot, at time making this video, you can get about 100 feet from Pressure Tech, and that's spelled T-E-K, for about $1.15 a foot. That's $1.15 US dollars if you're watching this here in the United States. If it's Canadian, you need to do the adjustment on that, but I believe that's about 30% difference between the US dollar and the Canadian dollar. And then also you got to look at shipping as well. So usually I'm looking at an invoice here that I have from about 2 weeks ago. Let me see. I had a 100-foot section delivered from Kentucky to Hammond, Louisiana from Pressure Tech. That's spelled PRESSURETEK.com. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. I just order a few things off the website. I had 100 feet with the quick. Now, that's another thing. With the quick connects was a few dollars more. But 100 feet I have here at 136, and that was with shipping. Sometimes that price adjusts a little bit. And so that's what I would use and where I get it. And one other thing regarding these pressure hoses, you either have an option for non-marking or marking. We just use black. It makes it real simple for me. I think the gray hose is non-marking. So if that's an issue, if you're doing some restaurant cleanup or they got different areas where you would want to use a non-marking pressure hose. So especially around pool decks and things like that. But otherwise, we usually don't have any trouble with those pressure hoses. Another thing about these pressure hoses, when they get old, they start to mark a little more. So that being said, we use our pressure hoses a lot, so they don't last a whole long time around here. But sometimes I'll get 6 to 8 months out of it using it every day. But if you have a pressure washing business and you only do work on the weekends and the pressure hose is sitting outside in the UV light, you might want to go ahead and get that non-marking pressure hose. So I hope that helps. So question number 2 I have here. What is the difference between downstreaming? What is the difference between downstreaming and X-jetting? Okay, to try to make this short and sweet in this video not to be an hour long, downstreaming is a method that we use to downstream our sodium hypochlorite solution or a soap solution onto a structure. Basically what that is, you have a bucket or a pail sitting at the foot of the machine, especially if you have one of those little 4 gallon per minute machines on a wheel cart. That bucket is going to sit right there next to the machine. There's going to be a little small siphon suction tube that runs from the machine to the bucket, and that generally is about a 1/4 inch in diameter. Most of the time with those downstream injectors, you're going to get at best a 1-to-10 ratio. So what does that mean? Let's say you have 10% in the bucket, and you know, like let's say if you're using some pool essential bleach for some of the new beginners that you get from Walmart, which is an awesome bleach, by the way, to start out with. If you have 10% in the bucket with your soap, when you pull the trigger about 100 feet away, you're going to get 1% out of the nozzle. Sometimes that's really all you need, especially if you're doing vinyl siding houses, some stucco, things like that. You're not going to kill any plants usually with 1% solution. It's safe for just about everything: glass, wood. You know, you could even wash your car with it. I've done that before. So 1% is usually enough, especially with several applications. And when I mean several, sometimes 2 applications, sometimes 3. I have even applied up to 4 applications with about 10 minutes in between. And a lot of times we will apply the entire house before we stop applying. And then you got to mix up. 5 gallons, usually I'll do a small little 1,000 square foot house one time. So you can kind of do the math there, just depending on how you're applying it from the bottom up, and you know how liberal or generous you're going with the solution. So 1-to-10 ratio on downstreaming at best. A lot of the times you will get a 1-to-20 ratio out of those downstreamers, especially from the big box stores. So that's downstreaming. The other part of the question: what is the difference between downstreaming and X-jetting? Davidson Pressure Wash Painting, Hammond, Louisiana. X-jetting is an entire different animal. In short, X-jetting has its pros and cons. Some of the pros is that you can apply up to about a 30 to 40%. So what does that mean? In the bucket, you have 10%, like we was talking about as downstreaming. Instead of applying 1%, you can do a 3 or 4% with the X-jet, so out the nozzle. So that is phenomenal solution. A lot of times that's way too strong. But let's say you have a real hot spot that got to get to, that's 2 or 3 stories high, you know, a little peak or gable or something offset back on the roof. We've all had that. The X-jet is phenomenal for that. You can take it and take care of that and clear that mildew or mold up, usually with no problem. Oftentimes, we would use the X-jet to apply our bleach solution and just take the hose off and use that same X-jet to rinse with. It's phenomenal for rinsing as well. There's 2 types of X-jets. There's the adjustable and there's the original. I prefer the adjustable because it goes from a 0 degrees to like maybe a 60-degree fan. That's safe for windows and all of that. Only thing you gotta watch your burst pressure as usual, and you'll be fine. The cons about that is, well, that bucket of bleach solution has to sit basically right here by your feet. The hose, this X-jet nozzle snaps into the end of the hose, and so the bucket sits right by your feet, and you got to move it around quite often. Then you got to refill that bucket quite often. And they are about $150 to $200, depending on what kind of machine you got. And if you do buy X-jet, please make sure that you select the correct flow for your machine. That is often a huge mistake people do when buying an X-jet. And also another note here I have on X-jet is the little proportional valves that come through it. I usually just leave those at home. I don't fool with them. You can if you want, but they get clogged up and they don't work all that well after a few minutes. I mean, after a few times of using it. Okay, hope that answers the X-jet downstream question. And I guess I'll do one more. What do you think? Let me see if I can find a good one here. What type of surface cleaner do you prefer? Now that is sort of kind of an open-end question. Which one do I prefer? I like the Whisper Wash, to be honest with you, but they are kind of expensive. And you know, just think if you have a $700 or $800 Whisper Wash surface cleaner and it got stolen, which happens to us a couple times in the past, or let's say it got ran over, or you know, whatever else can happen because it's out in the parking lot, then that's something to cry over. So now the GP hammerheads, they run anywhere between 18 and 20 inch. I think I did a little research for you here on here. The 18 inches, I think at Home Depot is running less than $350 out the door with tax. That's if they got it in stock. If not, Home Depot can have it shipped to your home, or pick it up at the store, free shipping at the store. Okay, so maybe it is a little shipping charge going to your home, but for sure at the store, free shipping. That's $350 out the door. It's actually a little less than $350, but I think you're gonna have to, depending on if you run male, female, or female, male on the end of your hose, you might have to buy a little quick connect. That's why I threw an extra $20 in there just for some Teflon tape and fitting. So probably, I think the last one we got was actually $324 out the door, and then a couple, fittings or whatever, and a Starbucks afterwards. So you're probably looking at $350, and those those will produce on a 4-gallon per minute machine at 4,000 psi. Let me see what I got here. I got about 2,500 square feet per hour for that either 18 or 20 inch. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference. The Whisper Wash, so that was a GP Hammerhead, 2,500 square feet an hour. The Whisper Wash, we had got about 3,200 square feet per hour on that 4-gallon per minute at 4,000 psi. Now the 8-gallon per minute machines is about double that on each of those units. And so yeah, so that answers your question. What do I usually buy? I usually buy the GP Hammerhead, although I do have a couple Whisper Wash. But probably from here on out, I'm probably getting a GP Hammerhead just because they're so cheap. And if something were happen to them, it's not that big of a deal. We can go buy one today or tomorrow and get it, to the house. So anyway, hope that helps. And one other thing about surface cleaners, mentioned in Home Depot. Of course, I don't have any affiliation with them. They do rent surface cleaners. They rent something called the Mighty M. Here in Hammond and most other locations. Those are great little surface cleaners. The only thing, if you rent one from them, I think it's about $35 or $40 a day. And make sure that you have some extra tips on your truck, because a lot of times those guys at Home Depot don't know what they're doing. They just regular employees renting power washing equipment, and obviously they're not gonna know about the spray tips. So, have your little 1/4 inch little spray tips to better assist you with that. And I usually have an assortment of them, so you probably do too. They cheap. You can also get those at pressuretech.com as well. So a lot of times if we ever had to rent one from Home Depot, which we did a couple times, we change those tips out for our personal use, and then we before we return the unit, we put the old tips back in. So anyway, hope this frequently questions answering question section helps you. Like I said, I'm going to be doing this about twice a week from here on out. Sometimes I might only be able to do about once a week because we're doing some traveling here in the future, the next few weeks, but I'm going to try to do it wherever I'm at. And as always, if you need my help personally, my number is 985-345-0778. I am Billy Davison, the owner of Davison Pressure Washer Painting. Thanks for watching.